Hello, this is Ariel Adamson with Team T3ch out of Boise, Idaho. I'm going to be doing a quicker version of my 5-color control deck tech. We're just going to quickly run through the cards. If you want to see the longer version, I'm going to post a link in the description. The longer version is about 30 minutes. Really go into detail on a few cards. So, starting off, the deck was inspired by Melissa de Tora's Bant Control. So I do run 3 Restoration Angel, 4 Thragtusk, and 4 Sphinx's Revelation. Those complete the triage of Bant Control. That's basically the top cards of that deck. This is a 5-color deck, so Farseek is an absolute must. As you can see, that is the promo for getting first this last week. 2 Borderland Ranger. An odd edition. These are the older artworks from N10. I like to kind of showcase my collection through older artworks. And I'll explain further what those are targeting later. As a control deck, Wrath is usually a very important thing, so I'm running 3 Terminus. The miracle cost is very relevant. I do tend to only draw 1 card a turn, so it's not unusual for me to miracle even as early as turn 2. And then 2 Supreme Verdict. I run less of these because they interact less favorably with cards like Radro's Charm and Dying. There's a lot of things in the meta right now that Destroy doesn't do enough. However, it is uncounterable and works very well in mirror matches of any control style, whether it's 5-color, Bant, American, any of those. Terminus is generally my go-to in the current meta though. Simpler on the colors, as well as that ever-present miracle threat. Now, Snapcaster Mage is a must. It seems like today decks either go with Augur Bolas or Snapcaster Mage. I run 3, and Snapcaster Mage's targets are the infamous Azorius Charm. I run a 3 of. Most common uses are definitely lifelink and removing their creature in that order. Because of the colors, I don't tend to turn to draw card like a lot of decks will. I use the lifelink to buy back the time that I spent ramping, and I use the removing big threats to deal with their counterattack after doing such attacks, as well as stopping super pumps on a single creature or whatever odd situations might come to be. Abrupt Decay is the only main board black card. Absolutely love it. It answers just about everything. Whenever I hear about a new deck list, I run it past what I run in here and think, do I have an answer for that? And 9 times out of 10, Abrupt Decay is a relevant answer. It stops Boros Reckoner, it stops Oblivion Ring, so that's major board threats as well as their counter answers that are stopped by this single card, and Snapcaster makes it act more times. Also, one of Snapcaster's favorite targets as of late is my odd edition of 2 Aurelia's Fury. Aurelia's Fury is absolutely amazing. In certain matchups, I only run 2 because sometimes you just don't have enough time for this to be relevant. However, with how much I ramp, it is not unusual for me to be able to kill multiple, if not all, creatures in play, as well as even save 1 damage for them to make sure that they're not playing anything funky in that turn. This destroys token decks, as well as a lot of aggro decks, and the instant speed is very relevant, because I'm not only casting Sphinx's Revelation at end of turn, I also have Burn at end of turn. I can also use it to force their plays before combat step. Azorius Charm only targets attacking creatures, so if I shoot them for 1 prior to the attack, not only am I getting more damage in, but they're not going to Azorius Charm me. Garruk Primal Hunter is undoubtedly my least favorite card in the entire deck. He's an amazing card, absolutely love him. I just don't think he interacts well here, due to my lack of flying presence, as well as the triple green and just my generally lower amount of board state. Sure, he does a good job of protecting himself, but because there's so many creatures attacking at once in this format, a single 3/3 often isn't a big enough difference. However, his minus ability, in conjunction with Rhox Faithmender, can make a kind of counterattack to slaughter games on my Sphinx's Revelation, because if I Kessig Pump, which we'll talk about Kessig later, Kessig Pump a Rhox Faithmender, I have essentially made my own Sphinx's Revelation. Draw cards, game life. Rhox Faithmender is actually a sideboard card that has been brought to main board just because of the increasing amount of aggro in the meta. Extremely relevant, coming down early on turn 3 and blocking and buying me the time I need, as well as later game buying back that time I spent early time. You'll often hear me refer to life as time. How much life you have is how much time you have before you lose. Now, that's 35 spells. Moving on to the land, so it's 25 land. I'm running a full play set of Temple Garden. This is my ideal first turn play because it allows for turn 2 Terminus, Farseek, Azorius Charm on occasion. It's what I want to have down first. The majority of the deck is blue-green, so that is the only land that I run double play set of. I have 4 Breeding Pool, as well as my only slow land in the deck, which is 4 Hinterland Harbor. Slow land refers to core set lands or the Innistrad duels, because they will never come into play untapped before a shock land could potentially come into play untapped. Hinterland triggers off of the majority of the deck as well, including Temple Garden. Then, because I am running Farseek and 5 colors, I have this toolbox to pick from in my lands. I've got Godless Shrine, Sacred Foundry. This is a old school Stomping Ground, Steam Vents, Watery Grave, and Hallowed Fountain. I do oftentimes consider adding a Blood Crypt to that mix, but I find, especially post-sideboard, I need black and red, not black or red. Just devising a 5-color mana base is extremely difficult. It often takes help from someone else who has experience in that field before you can really get it down on your own. I run 1 of each basic land. These are the Zendikar full arts, all Veronique as the artist. The Borderland Ranger allows me to grab whichever color I'm needing most, as well as in later game, this will, when life is extremely relevant for whatever reasons happen up until that point, these allow me to play an additional lane without having to shock myself when that extra point of damage or extra point of life with a Sphinx's Revelation, whatever it is I need that extra land for, these basics help me get there, as well as being helping me hit my land drops through the course of Borderland Ranger. Then, like I said, this was inspired by Melissa de Tora's success. Kessig Wolf Run is absolutely amazing. Turns my silly flash Snapcaster Mage and Restoration Angel into 10 or more damage just out of nowhere. And we also use these in conjunction with the Rhox Faithmenders to gain gross amount of life. So that is the main board. Fairly simple picks in each card. The difficult part of devising a deck like this is just what not to play. So let's go ahead and move on to the sideboard real quick. I run a single Witchbane Orb. This stops Slaughter Games, probably my least favorite card to play against, as well as other hand hate, direct burn, milling effects. I only run 1 of though because I generally don't want to see more than 1, and most of the time the decks I set this in again can't interact with it, and if they do, it's in the form of O-Ring, which I can later Abrupt Decay. Or Detention Sphere also gets hit by Abrupt Decay. Centaur Healer is an absolute must for any Bant control, either main or sideboard. I run it sideboard because I have enough interaction with board, as well as I've got these other colors to work with that I don't need the kind of universal I'm going to block gain life that Centaur Healer offers. He's probably the most sideboarded card in the Sacro meta, but still I prefer him sideboard. I run 2 Dispel. These are the old Worldwake Dispels from around the time when I first started playing. Dispel hits specifically Sphinx's Revelation as well as counters to my plays. Blind Obedience, I have progressively moved down in the number of Blind Obedience I play because I find I need to interact with the board more. However, eliminating haste, eliminating those random variables, as well as the extort over a long period of time is extremely relevant. Did recently Sphinx's Revelation for 0 and extort for a game. Funny story. Recent addition with the growing love of Human Reanimator, and actually all kinds of Reanimator and other graveyard interactions, I've brought in Rakdos Charm. This is a 3-up. I have yet to use it in its other 2 forms, but having access to Artifact Hate is a very good thing, especially if Omnidor ever resurfaces as a deck. That's the Omniscience into Door to Nothingness deck. Devour Flesh is a relic of the past. It is meant for Geist of Saint Traft and other hexproof annoying dudes. Occasionally I will use it to save myself and gain some extra life for myself by sacrificing a dude. Slaughter Games, most commonly hitting wrath spells, counter spells, big threats. Pretty simple. Snapcaster Mage makes this come into play multiple times as well. Melissa de Toro made a great case for Gisela. It's basically a door to nothingness. I put it into play. Do you have an answer? Okay, I win. And then Sigarda is my anti-Jund card, as well as anti-control. If I can stick one of these and Kessig pump it, it's usually game. So that is my 5-color control deck. If you'd like to see more information on this, the list will be posted in the description below, as well as the extended video is also in the description, where I cover a few other things. This has been Ariel Adamson with Team Tech. Thank you for watching. Feel free to follow me on IMTG forums under the username Kaleo42.